Hey guys, welcome to the first in the series of Banana Reviews, the show where I peel off the layers of the games I play to figure out whether they're fresh and spotless or deteriorating and rotting. In these reviews, I always seek to avoid spoilers. That's why I'll mainly be showcasing gameplay from the first hour of the game. This is Little Nightmares 2, a 2.5D horror/adventure puzzle platformer game made by Tarsier Studios and published by Bandai Namco. If you've played the first game in the series, you know exactly what to expect from this sequel. You move around, mainly towards the right side of the screen, navigating through puzzles, obstacles, and monsters on your way to the game's ending. This similarity is actually the first point I'd like to make. You're getting exactly what you're expecting if you have any sort of past with this series, and whether that's a positive or a negative is up for you to decide. For me though, I thoroughly enjoy this style of gameplay. As a banana that's slowly moving past its prime in terms of age, these types of tightly structured narrative experiences are something that I treasure more and more as time goes on. And for the kind of gameplay that Little Nightmares 2 goes for, it nails it almost to perfection. However, even though it's very similar to the first game, that's not to say that there's nothing new to be seen in this sequel. Take for example the added layer of combat. There are certain situations in the game where you do actually get to defend yourself against the horrors you're facing. I won't show too many of these here, as I feel like these moments are best experienced for yourself, as with the rest of the game to be honest. The combat is simple, but it's by no means easy, which makes it extremely gratifying when you do manage to strike back. Talking about the combat though brings me to one of my only gripes with this game, and that is the controls. 90% of the time, everything works as intended. However, there are moments when precise control is needed, whether it's aiming your weapon during combat or pointing certain objects somewhere specific. To be honest, this complaint may well be aimed at the fixed camera as well, which can make precise aiming relatively hard to achieve at times. These moments of frustration are so rare though, that I find it hard to chalk them up to anything more than exactly that: fleeting moments of frustration. Another thing to note about the game is its length, which is definitely worth talking about too. I was streaming the game live on Twitch, talking to my chat, and I managed to reach the ending in around 4.5 hours. And for the price of 30 euros or dollars, depending on where you live, this might be an issue for some. I'd like to stress that those 4.5 hours are all quality though. I like to keep my streams around 2 to 3 hours in length, but I couldn't manage to put the game down, even as the clock rapidly approached midnight. I ended up playing through the whole game in one sitting. It's really that good. As you've probably noticed by now, this is, like its predecessor, a great looking game. It won't blow you away or melt your graphics card, but the general aesthetic of Little Nightmares 2 serves it greatly in creating that unsettling and oppressing atmosphere that acts as the primary form of horror in this universe. The playable character may look cute with a little hat, but don't get the wrong idea. This is a horror game, through and through. It's an excellent example of a horror game that doesn't rely on cheap jump scares to keep you on the edge of your seat. Instead, it's the horrific environments and inhabitants of this world that makes every second of this journey truly nerve-wracking and unforgettable. I personally love this form of horror compared to the Hollywood-esque jump scares type, so this is definitely an aspect of the game that I truly adore. Finally, I'd like to talk briefly about the story of the game. As someone who did play the first game but never really dove into the lore of this universe, the overall story and ending did leave me a bit confused. I do feel like that is the intent from the developers though, and I don't feel like having an in-depth understanding of the lore is needed to enjoy everything you experience here. My only worry is that by keeping everything so abstract and mysterious, the developers set themselves up for endless sequels, something that Bandai Namco surely loves, milking this franchise until it literally stops making any semblance of sense. With the huge success of these games, it's certainly a smart move from a business standpoint, but I am slightly worried about mysterious stuff just happening for the sake of being mysterious in the future. That's why I'd personally like to see this franchise end by the time Little Nightmares 3 inevitably rolls around, to hopefully answer the questions left by the first two games in a satisfying conclusion. Speaking of conclusions, that's it for this banana review. Little Nightmares 2 scores 4.5 fresh bananas out of 5. If you have any sort of interest in this franchise at all, I highly recommend that you give it a play. You won't be disappointed. Let me know what you thought about this kind of review style format in the comments down below, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much. Stay safe out there.